the clearance between the bottom of the pickup and the bottom of the pan is too large. This thing is going away because we've got something much sexier.
Welcome to our sports sedan build-off. I bought a cheap 2008 Honda Civic and Pete bought a mint E90 M3. The cheap Civic is the definition of a project with a bruised up body, but did come with a 232 wheel horsepower K24 engine swap and a genuine FD2 Type R front end. It also came with rust and lots of it, but that's not gonna stop us. We got straight to work tearing it apart and then sent it off to paint for a fresh coat of Type R Championship White. Things have escalated quickly though as we decided to yank the motor out for a quick overhaul and a big power adder.
All right, welcome back everybody to my E90 M3 killer Honda Civic build. And the reason we're taking all this off, I will explain momentarily, but this, as you can see, is a lightweight, presumably exit flywheel because it did have a brand new exit stage 1 clutch on it. And the reason we're taking that off is, well, we're gonna put a whole bunch more power through this motor, so we need a clutch that can handle that power. One other thing I wanted to mention is we're trying out a new tool. This is from Rigid. It is a 3-inch drive, cordless electric ratchet. And the reason we decided to try this is because it's a long boy, so it gives you more leverage. So as you saw, I was cracking some big 17 mil bolts with it, and because it's so long, I have good leverage. The downside is it does have a bulkier head on it, so it's not as nimble to get into tight places. It does have a good amount of torque, and it's got good speed in the head too. It's quite quick that way, so it does have some play in it when you first start to engage it, but overall I think it's quite a good tool. Switching over to the other side of the motor here, we are going to pull off the crank pulley, and that's for two reasons. One is, if you watch the very first video on this car, when the motor's running, there is a lot of wobble happening in this pulley. We're assuming it's, sort of in that rubber layer, it's starting to fail and allowing it to wobble, so we need to replace it. But you can also see there's a lot of oil behind the pulley here. So we're fairly certain the seal on the crank is going to be leaking. Wow, that worked great. The weighted socket that Pete bought, what brand are these? OEM Tool. These weighted sockets seem to work great in this kind of application where you need extra punch. They really work nicely, as of course does this big gun. But the Honda crank pulleys always seem to come off easy, PT. Much easier than BMW ones.
I don't know. No, the BMWs are pretty simple.
JZs are not known for it.
Two Js.
Two Js are the worst for sure. So.
Uh-oh, did you just jinx yourself, DP?
Nah, I think we're good. I just need maybe a little bit of a pry tool back there, but I can feel there's play in it, so she's gonna come off.
Is there a key you can drop into the backside of this motor somehow, or not really?
There's a key there, but I don't think it can go anywhere. There's your key.
There's the key. Thankfully not inside the motor now.
No.
And wow.
Yeah.
Look at that oil seal.
She's a leaker. Gonna give our Lyle seal puller a try here. As you can see, it's got this little hook on the end of it that...
I love this tool, DP.
Yeah, it looks good, except when your seal is this old and crusty.
Oh look, the seal is falling apart. Why would the seal be falling apart, DP?
Well,
oh my goodness. Wasn't this motor just put together by somebody?
Listen, even Honda can't make everything perfect, but yeah, somebody missed the boat on this, considering this short block was swapped into this car. Whatever shop did it got a little lazy. They just probably never wanted to even look under the crank pulley, but...
well, it's part of the job. They had to take this off.
I'm not defending anybody. Going medieval on it here with a pry bar. I don't want to do this because could maybe, I don't know, scratch the snout of the crank here, but...
Or break the case there.
Yeah, that's true too.
There you go. I think you're... Oh, yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Look at that petrified old seal. I mean, Anyway.
Goes to show that was for sure leaking.
Yeah, it was, no question. All right, seal is tapped in there. Time for the new crank pulley. Honda part number on there.
Whoa, DP, OEM.
OEM, spent the big bucks. It's actually surprisingly cheap. We bought it online from one of the many HondaOnlineParts.com type websites, and it was, I forget.
Under 100?
I think it was under $100. I'm gonna torque the crank pulley bolt now, and according to the factory service manual, you torque it to 34 foot-pounds and then an extra 90 degrees.
What?
Which, I know.
What?
Just give me a number, Honda. Just give me like 180
That's like a BMW repair manual.
Yeah, it's a little shocking.
Oh my goodness. Honda, what have you done to us?
I'm upset. The D's and the B's are old school, but with the K's, they've gone with the degree. However, we have a torque wrench here from AC Delco of all places that does do degrees. We bought this, I think, when we were building engines and we needed to do some degree tightening. I think it was BMW stuff, wasn't it?
It was BMW stuff. That's the irony here.
Yeah, that is ironic. So we've got this not OEM crank pulley holder tool here, and
which we're not even sure it's for the Honda. I think it's
a little
for
loose.
2JZ.
Yeah, but it does eventually hit resistance. So we're just gonna go for it here. All right, so there's your 34 foot-pounds. Woo! I just had a heart attack, but I got it to 90, people. Whew, don't tell my wife. As you can see, we've dropped the factory oil pan, and this motor actually already had the Type S oil pump installed, which is better for high RPM use, also gets rid of the balance shaft setup. But what it also does is sits further from the bottom of the 8th gen oil pan. So if you're running an 8th gen oil pan like we are, because this oil pan bolts to the subframe for the 8th gen, the clearance between the bottom of the pickup and the bottom of the pan is too large. So if you don't have a baffled pan, you are really playing with fire having that larger gap there, because oil could be sloshing around in there. You could suck air into your bearings and game over. So to solve that problem, Unit 2 Fabrications, some local boys in Kitchener, take this pump and they weld on this adapter here, which is about 10 mil thick. And that puts this into the correct depth of an 8th gen oil pan. And you also want to baffle your pan, regardless of this being in the correct position or not, if you're going to the racetrack, because K-Series motors are notorious for oil starvation because it's just a big empty void and the oil could slosh around. But what Unit 2 Fabrication does is take an 8th gen pan and install their baffle system here, which you can see is really nicely done. It's got a bunch of trap doors in here. It adds capacity, and it prevents any kind of oil starvation. In fact, they've data logged these oil pans on time attack cars with really high G-forces and have seen very stable oil pressure. So we know from the science of oil pressure that these pans really do work well.
What Dave forgot to mention is you can actually buy this spacer from Unit 2 to have it welded onto your factory. I think this is a PRB, right? Type S oil pump. PRB is the technical term, DP. Am I correct on that? Yeah.
I think so.
Anyways, here's the funny thing. Like when we pulled this off, we couldn't find a lot of information as to doing this swap without taking the whole front cover off. So we just wanted to show you guys that this, in fact, if you have the Type S oil pump on your car already, you can see it's actually rather easy to swap without having to take the front cover off and all the other timing components off. You can see I just put it on there. It just slides in like that. I put the bolts in and then the tensioner will go back on here and we are done.
Well, our Unit 2 oil pan is in place, torqued down, and lovingly bonded on there with Honda Bond, the greatest sealant ever invented by man. And now it's time for the clutch and flywheel. You can see that the exidy flywheel has been resurfaced, cleaned up so that it gives the clutch the correct, clean mating surface. And as for the clutch, we have gone with exidy again, but this time with their Stage 2 Cerametallic 3-puck. It is sprung, so it does take shock load out of the transmission and drivetrain when you're doing those, hard launches or anything like that. This is rated for 290 foot-pounds of torque, and it can take a lot of heat and a lot of punishment. It's really designed for a motorsports type application. In fact, it's SFI rated, meaning if you're going drag racing and you need an SFI rated clutch, this will meet all those specs. It's also lighter, by the way, so just much like lightening the flywheel, lightening the clutch also does give you like a bit snappier response. As you guys just saw, we bolted on the transmission and we stripped off the intake manifold for reasons you're gonna learn soon. And matter of fact, my phone is buzzing here. It's a notification from Turn 14 Distribution. A package is coming to my door to fill this very void. So what do you say I run and grab it right now? That was more running than I've done in 20 years, but it was worth every step because wow, I am so stoked to put this Supercharger kit on this motor. And thank you Turn 14 Distribution for your very speedy delivery. As you guys may know, they wholesale across North America and they have 3 huge warehouses in the USA, one on the East Coast, one Central, one West Coast. So they can ship to your location or to your shop's location within like a couple of days. Very efficient. Their back end when ordering parts is super easy to use, very intuitive. And it shows like a dozen of these kits in stock. Like who else in the world would have a dozen of these kits in stock? Probably nobody. So thank you Turn 14 for being the best distributor in the business. Now let's get this box open and show you what's inside. This, my friends, is what the Supercharger kit from Craftworks looks like. It is very complete, including an intake manifold, a whole tensioner system for the pulley that drives this Rotrex Supercharger. So this is really the heart of this kit, and we know from experience because we ran this exact same Rotrex Supercharger on our FRS that they make very nice power and are very reliable. It has its own oiling system to keep it cool, so it doesn't add any heat into the engine, and because it doesn't use recirculating, exhaust gases like a turbo setup, it just runs cooler in general inside the engine bay. So it does come with a front mount intercooler. As for power, they advertise on their website that it makes around 380 wheel, and with this K24 bottom end, we may crest 400 wheel horsepower. Obviously, you're gonna have to stay tuned to find out. We have no idea how much power it's gonna make. You don't either, but I'm pretty sure it's going to make more than enough power to be as fast as Pete's E90 M3 in a straight line. E90s tend to make like a 350 to 380 stock. 380 is pretty optimistic, but Pete's car already has a dyno tune and exhaust on it, so he might be already at 370 or 380 wheel, and who knows what he's got up his sleeve. So I think I'm gonna need all of that 400 wheel to keep up with that car. Yes, it's a bit heavier than this car, but rear wheel drive with DCT versus front wheel drive with a manual gearbox, I'm gonna need all the power, folks. So this is gonna get me there, and I think it's gonna do it very reliably, which is not a word that you're gonna hear Peter using a lot when working on the BMW. Manifold and throttle body in place, and we are going to upgrade the fuel rail to this K-Tune billet unit, which is frankly partly visual. It's just a much nicer looking fuel rail than the OEM one. So I should also mention that it comes with this really slick fitting, which connects to the factory fuel line. So it is truly a bolt-on kit. It also comes with this nice AN line with AN fittings, all the fittings you need, so it is a direct or bolt-on solution. Making good progress here, including installing the supplied tensioner and mounting bracket for the Supercharger. That is in place, and now we're gonna get rid of this ratty old valve cover, which as you can see has seen better days. I don't know what it is about Honda valve covers, but they don't seem to age very well. I will say BMW valve covers age better than Honda ones. How do you like that?
Actually, DP, I'll give you a little bit of a tidbit.
Okay.
The valve covers on the E90 do warp.
Oh, they warp?
They warp and they leak, so they can be a costly replacement.
Okay,
so,
that's good to know. Yeah. See, I'm not the only one who gets to bust BMW.
Well, I don't know, but maybe the rain gods are pissed off that you're changing this OE valve cover here.
They do sound angry.
On? Man, the rain is coming down hard.
Probably because we're losing this Jay's Racing filler cap, but this thing is going away because we've got something much sexier. The gods are still angry, but they shouldn't be, because what we have is a red top for our Type R inspired build. This, of course, is from K-Tuned in the correct color for a car we just painted championship white. And as you can see, it has breather ports both on the front and on the back for big AN fittings, so we can set up our catch can setup, which we are going to do later. And I mean, honestly, we want it mostly because it's red and rad, but the breather setup is certainly a worthwhile bonus, especially on a forced induction car. So let me see if I can get that on here with this seal not falling out. Oh, no, it's falling out on the back here. Eating a hole. We did it, PT, we did it.
That's looking good, dude. Woo! Look at this motor.
How much better is that? Just dropping in the K-Tune dipstick. You can see we also went with their oil filler cap and their coil pack cover. So this thing is fully decked out in all the good stuff from K-Tune, and man, it looks super
like
sweet.
a new engine all of a sudden.
It does. I now believe that this is a 400 horsepower engine, even without the blower bolted up yet.
We do have to upgrade the fuel pump. This is the Kraftwerk supplied fuel pump. Says 265 liters per hour, and you can see the Civic Si has this kind of in-tank plastic setup. I don't really love these because
it's a surge tank, bro. This is race car stuff.
Yeah, really? Or it's something that
no fuel starves in the big G corners.
More difficult to remove and tends to crack, but on the bright side, you can see this is plug and play. So I take all that back. Whoa, see what happened there? That slid right out. When you have plug and play, it's always worth it. Look at that, there it is. And that's it. We are officially done with the injectors, the fuel rail, and that's it for the fuel system.
Engine's pretty much ready to go back in, but before we do that, we have some work we want to do in the engine bay, including replacing these worn out old shifter cables. These are the OEM cables, and you can see they are in visually rough shape, but there's also some other signs of wear and tear on them. It's the end that goes to the gearbox here, and one of these, you can see it's like the boot is separated, which means corrosion's gonna get in there, and it's gonna start to like seize up basically. And here are the K-Tune cables. As you can see, they've gone to a spherical bearing on the transmission side. It's gonna give you a much more positive feel. And on the shifter side too, they've gone to these little billet cups. The OEM ones are plastic. And of course, they're gonna be much more smoother operating. The cable's gonna slide more smoothly because there's no corrosion in there. So this is just gonna give us a much more positive, better feeling shifter experience. And new is always better too. Moving on to the next engine bay job here, and that is replacing the factory engine mounts. This one's actually in decent shape, but we're changing them all out to hard race hardened rubber bushings, which in our experience is really the best solution for any serious street performance car where you want to reduce deflection, and these OE bushings generally have a lot of deflection and they wear out over time. The hardened rubber ones reduce deflection dramatically, but they don't add the NVH or the harshness, the vibration and all that you get from polyurethane. If you're shopping for hard race parts, we source these where we always source all our hard race parts from, and that is from stage4motorsports.com. They are longtime friends of ours, and they stock a lot of hard race Honda stuff. You will find, if you're searching for Honda stuff and you can't find it, I bet you anything they will have it in stock. So they ship quickly and efficiently and affordably anywhere in North America. They'll even ship worldwide, I think, if you ask nicely. One other upgrade we're planning to make with the engine out was the clutch master cylinder, and that's because the factory unit has a delay valve in it, which is designed to take like shock load out of the system and give you nice smooth shifts. But when you're trying to shift quickly, say like at the racetrack, that delay valve can actually lock you out, especially on the 1-2 shift, and it can also increase wear on the synchros if you're trying to shift quickly. So to solve that problem, K-Tune actually makes a complete kit, including a different designed clutch master, and it does not have a delay valve in it. So it does away with that problem. It also comes with a new slave cylinder, but as we've discovered, this car already has that kit on it. So the kit does come complete with the master, the slave, and the line, but we've already got it on there, so we're gonna save ourselves the work. Last upgrade before we put the engine back in, and that is a Koyorad. And of course, like we use in all our projects, these feature a super efficient core. This is their HH series core, which not only has a higher density fin count, but the fins are actually shaped and angled in a way to improve cooling efficiency. It's 48 mil thick, quite a bit thicker than the factory unit, but it does have factory direct fitment. So it will just drop in there using all the factory mounting brackets and locations. And as we know from experience with these, they just do a great job, and they look great too. Look at the polish finish on this, really beautiful quality construction.
I love that polish finish.
It is a work of art, and we're actually going back to OE style fans as well. This car used to have like really noisy, low profile fans, but Pete did not like the NVH of those, so we're going back to an OE style fan from Dorman. These will just slide in here with minimal drama, if I can get the AC out of the way, and plop down into the factory locations, top and bottom. All right, fellas, you know things are getting serious when you're doing the mounting of plates. You know, Pete's got those M emblems. He's got like 400 M emblems on his E90, I believe the count is, and I gotta have at least one cool emblem on this car. So I'm not gonna put Type R stickers on it despite the championship white paint. So let's at least put the Craftworks logo on here, because with a Supercharger, I'm gonna be running down that M3 on the straightaways like he's standing still.
Sitting somewhere.
Yeah, something weird was going on. It's starting to move this way.
Because it's hard up against that.
That bracket doesn't help us, actually. What is wrong with this car?
Yeah, it's good.
All right, we're clear on the
AC, yeah.
AC now. How do you fix this?
I have no idea.
You probably want to watch. This side's we're in now. So you gotta watch.
Yeah, that's good there.
Man, how easy was that, PT? That's like 5 minutes to hang this motor.
Yeah, that is impressive. Now that we've got like the secret formula figured out, motor in, then subframe, that is remarkably good.
It's not a great car to work on the engine from the top side because the cowl and the windscreen hang so far over. But,
yeah, that's real bad there.
But, you know, bringing it up from the bottom, amazing. So simple. How many moose feet are you putting into that bolt?
4.5,
Which is what in pound feet?
about 350.
Sounds right, Pete?
Yeah, that's about right.
It's not going to fall out. It's going to snap the head off the bolt before the engine falls out.
I'm torque limited by this little 3/8 drive and only an 18-inch.
I don't know, Moose. I don't know.
Limited by gravity, let alone that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not worried about that.
There's no shortage of sweat either, Moose. Man, this is
Hey,
this.
I can use you as a rag. If
Yeah,
you like. Just stand still for a couple minutes.
I'm good.
I'll just
I'm
wipe
good.
myself
I'm good.
all over
It
you.
is a very humid day here. Moose just turned 3 bolts and he's covered, but that's usually what happens.
He also brought us iced coffees, so thanks, buddy.
Yeah. So I'm in. Let's keep raising it up.
Much excite, fellas. It's time to bolt up the Supercharger, and this is the Rotrex C3094, which happens to be the exact same size we ran on our FRS, and that made under 300 wheel horsepower at the same amount of boost. This is going to make 400 wheel horsepower.
Both 2-liter motors.
Both 2-liter motors, which tells you how good the K, or in this case, the K2 4K20 is versus that rather pathetic F820 engine. Let's be honest, that motor, not efficient, not a good time. Great chassis in need of a great engine. Just put this in your FRS, guys, and you'll be a much happier camper. So if you want to go even faster, slap one of these bad boys on there. So without further ado, let's just start bolting this on here, starting with the Supercharger, then we'll show you how the intercooler setup goes and really the rest of the Supercharger install.
Hose clamps. Well guys, we're gonna stop right here. And first off, it's just been a frustrating experience with this. And that is not necessarily because of the Supercharger kit, but because this is a K24, not a K20. So we do have a height variance, which has caused us all sorts of problems. The first one you'll notice, we do not have a belt on here because the belt that Kraftwerk supplies is too short. And that is because, once again, the deck is taller. The other huge issue that we have here, you can see this blower is sitting way above the hood line. Like, we are going to be having to cut the hood to make this work. That is an unfortunate problem that we have here. This setup actually has a mounting position that you can go lower on this to lower this blower down, but we can't do that because, once again, K24, it is taller. When we try to use that, it hits the intake manifold. So we have to run this on the highest setting with the taller motor, which now results in this area here going to make contact with a hood. Not looking forward to cutting the hood, but it is what it is to make this thing work. And we've just had, you know, small little issues here and there. I'm gonna pull this off to show you. The piping here, we made it work. It was super tight, and again, it's just not long enough for the setup here. This should actually sit down here lower, but it doesn't, so it's really close to the shifter, but that is all good. I'm looking at the setup here with the intake, and we have a few problems where if I put this intake out to here where it's supposed to bolt on, our blow-off valve tube is hitting the throttle body, which I don't really understand why. It shouldn't be. I have to kind of like push it in all the way to kind of make it work, but maybe it's got to go in this way, but then you cheat it in, and then maybe I need to like bend this bracket out. Anyways, we're just gonna regroup here. We've got a bunch of K-tune stuff coming tomorrow too, some hoses and a upper coolant housing that we wanted. So we're just gonna take a pause. I'm gonna zen out, and we're gonna come back and get back to work with some solutions here. It's a new morning and I'm a new man, ready to finish this job in a much more calm DP fashion. I'm being positive we're gonna get this done. I think it's gonna work out. I got a new belt ordered. Our K-tuned parts have arrived, so we do have the upper coolant housing. This is just going to reduce a lot of the clutter that was on there before with the stock one, and we do have some black K-tuned coolant hoses. If you guys recall, we had the Samco ones and they were blue and red, kind of clashy, not good, so we're gonna install these as well. Well, we aren't off to exactly the best start, judging by my forearms here. Ooh. They have taken a beating. DP, this engine, like, Honda's lost its way. This motor is so compact and tight to get into this area. It's, you know, not the Supercharger stuff, just like the coolant hoses and everything. It kind of sucks. Yeah, I'm not loving it.
I mean, think about the Evo, the SDI, like all those cars. Once you've added a forced induction system, it just gets cramped.
But even without the forced induction, there's no forced induction down here where I was trying to get the hose on.
No, you're right. It is a cramped engine.
You know, I'm not going to have any of these problems with my BMW. Mark my words. Mark my words.
No, you're going to have check engine light problems.
No,
you're not going to have access problems.
Honestly, I'd rather have check engine light problems than this. What we are doing is upgrading our OEM Honda map sensor. I don't even know if this is OEM, but it looks like it. Anyways, we're updating our stock map sensor, which can only read up to 10 PSI, to a 4-bar sensor from K-Tuned, because this blower puts out 10 PSI, so we would be right at that limit. I think I read the factory one is like 10.6, so we just don't want to be at that threshold at the top point, and where this sensor will now give us all the range and scale we need. My plan of attack here is to get a blow-off valve recirc tube, there we go, in here. I'm gonna tighten this up first in hopes of being able to now fit this back in here.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You don't have a lot of movement now because you hooked that tube up, right?
But if I take this is...
Oh, there you go.
This is the way to do this.
There, now you're talking.
This is gonna get now.
That was smarter than AI right there, PT. You did something that the computer.
Well, the
wouldn't have
computer
thought
would have thought of that in a millisecond.
Maybe you're
Where it
right.
took me, a little bit of pain and suffering on the front side here. Now.
Look at the power stance, everybody. This is the silicone coupler power stance on the slippery floors. Well, you won. Kind of. It's a little crooked down there, though. The OCD is kicking in.
Yeah. Well, look at it's not even where it needs to be. The logo is off. Now the final piece here, as you can see, there is quite a gap from that intake to the bracket here, but with a little bit of persuasion, that will close in. I'll get the nut on here. And the other thing, I don't really understand is this. This is an emissions pipe, I think. You can see it's super close.
Yeah.
It's super close there.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's not touching, but man, it's probably 2-3 mil away from touching. So.
Yeah, and if the supercharger was sitting lower like we wanted, it would. Really
I know, but even look at, to me, the puzzling thing is if you look at this setup, this pipe actually goes up a little bit.
Slanting up, yeah.
So it's almost at the height of this. I couldn't leave it alone. What we did is we bent that tube down, and that gave us enough clearance to move the intake down quite a bit. You can see the bracket is just not gonna work. This would have had to have been, the intake would have had to have been way too high. We just want to keep this as low as possible. But it is on there nice and tight. That is because of that recirc tube here. The rubber hose is holding it in place. So I think we're just not even going to mount it here, and we're going to be totally fine running it like this. As an added bonus, we get the clearance here for the hood.
All right, everyone, we are calling this one a wrap, and we have made a lot of progress. The supercharger kit is in there. I've just put some fluid in the Rotrex system, and we bled it, which included putting too much air pressure in the canister and creating a giant mess before we cleaned it up and did it correctly. But we'll spare you the details on how to do that. It's a bit of an involved deal, but in the next episode, we will get this thing fired up for you and see what kind of jam it makes. So lots more to come. Obviously, brake, suspension, aero, you name it, it's all still to come, and this thing is going to look the business when we're done.